Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thank God It's Sports Talk. I'm Keith Engel, your host. Thank God it's Friday. Thank God it's Sports Talk. Before we get started this morning, I do want to just say a quick reminder to think about what happened here on September 11th, 2011. Think about those that lost their lives that day, their families, their friends, other people that were affected. It's something that we have to remember. And one thing I'll say, and I don't do really any political stuff on my show, and this isn't really a political statement in my mind. I'd like us to remember the togetherness that we felt on September 12th and for a few days after, because we could use a lot of that. We could use a lot of that feeling today. So I hope that maybe we can get back to that. But, spend a few minutes today and think about those people. We're going to continue on with our day and our lives as we have to, but these are things that we need to remember. So please do that. I'd like to thank my guest from last week, Roger Weiland. Roger's the sports director at WNYT News Channel 13, and Roger was a great guest last week. We talked about a plethora of subjects, and I know Roger will be back to talk football here some point down the line too. And today's guest is Mark Littell. Mark's a retired Major League Baseball pitcher, pitched with the Kansas City Royals and the St. Louis Cardinals. He also is the author of a couple of books. On the Eighth Day, God Made Baseball. Also, let me look at my little banner here. Start her up. And Country Boy, Conveniently Wild. And he's also working on a third book, What's Up, Ramrod. And he's also the inventor of the Nutty Buddy. I'm actually going to turn this scroll off because I think it screws up my feed. He's also the inventor of the Nutty Buddy, which is not your grandfather's Nutty Buddy, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So let me bring in my guest today, Mr. Mark Littell. Morning, Mark.
Hey, Keith. How are you? I'm glad you brought up, today about September the 12th. It's very important, the day after. So.
Yeah, it is very important.
This country, it really is.
Yeah, it's. I wish we could get. Again, that day is not a day we want to repeat, obviously, but I wish we could get the feeling back that we had as a country. The days following that. But
right,
it is what it is.
Yep.
Let's get on to Mark Littell. Mark, one thing I want to bring up. I just finished reading on the Eighth Day, God Made Baseball, and I was talking to you a little bit about it the other day. That. And I'll use an analogy. I didn't give it the other day. It's funny. People I don't know, I watch on TV, ball players, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. I kind of judge them. Drives my wife crazy. But I judge them by whether I want to have a beer with them. Right? So just my way of judging people I don't know. I could be wrong in a lot of cases, I'm sure.
That's a good way to do it.
But I mentioned to you the other day that when I was reading the book, I didn't feel like I was reading a book. I felt like I was sitting next to you having a beer and you're telling me these stories about growing up in your career, and it was just an easy, fun read. So I want to congratulate you on that. Mm-hmm. And I'll definitely be getting into the next book, Country Boy, Conveniently Wild, as I mentioned this weekend. So how did let's talk a little bit about Mark Littell. We'll jump into the books, and a lot of the stuff we'll cover will be in the books, but how did Mark Littell end up being Mark Littell?
Well, my dad took me to a ball game at 6 to play and see if I could get into a game. And it actually starts in the very first chapter. My dad was shot all to hell in Korea. And my brother was a year younger, and my mom were at home out on a farm out in the middle of nowhere in Missouri, in southeast Missouri. But he took me up in an old 51 Studebaker to Gideon, Missouri, which is a town of about 1,000, and pretty much everybody was at the ball game back then. But he took me up there, and he wanted to see if he could get me an at-bat. And I eventually did get an at-bat because he knew the town sheriff who was on the bench. He weighed about 350. His name was Bo Wingo. And I hit on the other side, and I walked up to the plate, and I never had been on a baseball field ever. I'd been throwing a little bit with my mom. I never could play catch with my dad. He tried, but he'd been shot, in Korea in his arm, and he couldn't catch the ball. But I was out there hitting with a bat, an old wooden bat that was bigger than me actually, and hitting rocks across the road out in the middle of nowhere in a swamp, you might say.
Yeah.
So I guess I was swinging left-handed. I walk up to the plate and I was swinging left-handed, and I took a pitch from a guy named Pedro, and the umpire said strike. And I looked at the umpire and I said, "Do you care if I switch to the other side?" And he said, "No." And so I went around to the right side with the same grip. I took another pitch, strike two. And I said, I kind of like the other side. So people started laughing in the stands. And you got to remember, this was where the town was at the ballpark back then. So I went back to the left side, and I said to myself, I got to swing on this one. So I swung, and I got a hit. I ran down to first, and I came back to first, and the laughing had stopped. So I was hooked.
That's cool.
So there you go.
It doesn't take much to get you hooked on baseball. I know myself. So I didn't get to play in your level, but I certainly got hooked at a young age. And, they're in a small town, probably like you grew up in. And it was a lot of fun. I wish I could have gone longer myself. You tell a story in early on in the book on the eighth day, God made baseball, about the first pitch senior year, which it just really sticks in my head about that whole interaction between you and the batter and your brother who was catching you that day.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, there was a couple of scouts out there, and we had a cotton field out there had just been planted maybe, and it was still a little bit cool, but it was very early spring, and we had a game, and the ballpark was Gideon's ballpark, and my brother caught me, and Eric ended up going to Mississippi State and catching there, and he got drafted twice, and that was another story. But he actually did not want to play professionally, and he made the right choice, because if you don't want to do it, he might as well stay out of it, because it's a big deal. Anyway, Eric's down there, and he's been catching me the whole time, forever. He's the only guy that could actually catch me, and we were playing this school, and there's a few people out there, but there's a couple scouts out there watching me at the time. They came out of the woodwork of nowhere, and I was a little surprised in a sense, but Eric, he start the game off. The umpire's back there. Eric crouches down. There's this big guy that gets in the batter's box. He's a big guy. He's for a leadoff hitter. And we were playing Hayti, Missouri. And Hayti had won the state championship in basketball. And, everyone on their team could dunk back then. It was just amazing. I mean, absolutely amazing. But anyway, the big guy gets in there. I've seen my brother do this before, because we played Legion ball, and we played a lot of games in Legion, 55 or 60. And so we were pretty much in tune to this game of baseball. I mean, really in tune. And Eric lifts up his mask. This hitter was a right-handed hitter. He spits on his shoes, and he looks up at him, and he's saying something. I've seen him do this before. I've never asked him what he was doing. Yeah, and he didn't do it all the time, but he did it on occasion. And so then he puts his mask down, and instead of shooting a sign down of fastball, let's go, he just goes, "Hey, let's go," and then puts his mitt up. You say, "Hey, let's go," like he's backing a truck up, And that was it. And I just did my full wind up. I did a full wind up. Just delivered the ball, let her rip. And here's a ball that went lasered into this guy's helmet. And it split it, and it hit him so hard, I guess. He didn't fall backwards. He fell in front of the plate. Pretty much crumbled. And, I'm sitting there going, holy crap. first pitch of my senior year in high school, and you got, a couple scouts out there. So anyway, that didn't matter. But anyway, here's this guy not colder than a wedge. He's all crumpled up. My brother sits there, looks down at him, and instead of going around him out there to come out and see me, he steps over him. He steps over him. And I'm going, holy shit, he's a barbarian. And so, I'm crouched down out there on the mound, and he comes out to the mound, and the other team's wanting to try to kick my ass. And all of a sudden, Eric says, he lifts up his mask. He hadn't got his mask off. He lifts up his mask. He hits it on the side of his shin guards. And he said, I told that son of a bitch, my brother gets a little wild, so he better hang loose.
It's a great story. It's a different, obviously I do go back close to that time period. The game was played a whole lot differently, even in high schools and Legion ball in those days than it is today.
They scraped him off and took him down to the hospital where my mom worked, but my mom was actually at the game, so she was out there on the field helping to scrape him off. So,
well, it's good that your mom was there to save the day.
Yeah.
What else? What else formed Mark in your rise from the what was it, the boot heel of Missouri to the big leagues?
Well, I played Legion ball, and I'm ADD as hell. Obviously, you hadn't figured that out, but I am. And
I think we all are to a certain extent.
Yeah, I think I'm registered. I'm, the doctor he said, yeah, you're top of the list, and I said, yeah, that's good. So, I take the magic pill, but about the writing part, I didn't start writing until 6 years ago, and I was afraid to write because I didn't do that well in school, and I was signed at University of Missouri, which would have been a joke. I would have never made it through there at all. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to sign. But the big reason I thought I was ready as well to play the game of baseball, to get back to it. And so obviously I was. George Brett and I signed the same year, 1971. We go to Billings, Montana. Here's a guy that comes off the farm. I drop my plow at the door. George Brett comes in 2 or 3 days later. He drops his surfboard. We're both looking at each other saying, this guy's kind of a goofball. That's what we're both thinking. And all of a sudden, we end up rooming together a little bit and playing together quite a bit and knowing each other. George and I are, pretty much the same kind of guy. We were both 18 years old at the time, young and dumb, and we liked to play baseball and kill people. It didn't matter which order. So there you go.
It's funny, and I may have said this to you in one of our conversations that, growing up a Yankee fan,
right?
I certainly didn't appreciate George Brett,
right,
then, as a young man.
Neither did Gossage.
Yeah, he owned Gossage, and him and Nettles getting into a brawl there. I think that was in the playoff series, if I'm not mistaken.
He slid in the Nettles pretty hard.
Yeah, but as you come to appreciate the game more as you grow older, you can't help it. George Brett was a great player and just gave everything he had, and he was one of the greatest clutch players in baseball history, I think.
Yeah.
But it had to be exciting to know you played with guys like that. Yeah. As you get to Kansas City, you had a couple of starts and stops. You were a starter before you got moved to the bullpen, right?
Yeah, I was a starter in the minor leagues, and they were just coming into the closer roles and the use of relievers back then. Even the era before me, most of the starters like your Gibsons, Kurt Simmons, names of the past, Whitey Fords, they pitched the whole games, pretty much. They throw 8 innings or 9 innings mostly. The relievers were very rarely used unless somebody really got knocked out, I guess. And then, but it started getting a little bit more formal with, I guess the word closer. I don't know when it started about that time, around 74, 75, somewhere in that neighborhood. I came up in 73 when I was 20. Here's an interesting one. I was a 12th round pick. George was a second round pick. And I went up ahead of George. It's crazy. I wasn't even supposed to go to AAA. I mean, I had a great spring training and I threw like 28 innings of zeros across the board. And they didn't want me to go to AAA. They wanted me to go AA. But they tested me out. I went there, and my first start was in Denver, Mile High Stadium. I gave up 1 run in 7 innings, even there. So I ended up 9-1 before June 10th. I basically got called up June 11th, and then I threw my debut against Baltimore June 14th in Baltimore. And I did not go to big league camp. That's crazy. I mean, that's a story in itself. So, I mean, they really didn't know what to do with Mark Littell, a 12th round pick. And where did he come out of the woodwork? Who's the big guy that just walked in? Is he a new bat boy? Oh, he's got a pimple on his face. Oh, he's starting the game, the getaway day from Baltimore. So there you go.
That's cool. And who eventually moved you to the bullpen?
Whitey. I was having a really good spring, and we had an owner lockout in 76, and they didn't really know. I don't know. They didn't know if I was going to make the team, and I said, if I don't make the team, I am actually going to ask for a trade, but I don't think that was the case anyway because I was throwing way too good. I only threw 10 or 11 innings, actually, and so I threw very well. And so Whitey came over to me in actually Baltimore, and he said, hey, Airhead. He said, Air. He always called me Air. He said, Air. He said, you know what a closer does? I said, yeah. He slams the door. He says, you're going to do that for me. He said, I'm going to try you out there. He says, I think that's the job for you, or something to that effect. And so that day I got into the game, and he said he was going to stretch me out a little bit. Well, I ended up throwing against Baltimore. Jackson was over there with Baltimore. And so I threw real well. I went 4 1/3 innings, and I picked up the win. And it was like a 3-2 game. And I didn't give up scratch. I didn't give up anything. So, and that's when I had, the good year in 76. And they didn't know, so I went through having a good year. So it worked out well.
Whitey instilled that confidence in you, and that had to help a lot. It had to be a boost.
He doesn't instill. Nobody instills confidence in you.
Good point.
You do it.
Good point.
No manager does that. He just says, "Can you do this?" And if you can't, he's gonna get somebody else.
Yeah.
There's no confidence builders here.
Yeah. Did you? You played for Whitey through a lot of your career. Even after you got traded to St. Louis, obviously he came in pretty quickly. I think. After that. How did Whitey compare with the other guys that managed you? I know Jack McKeon was a manager of the Royals when you first came up. How did Whitey compare with some of the other guys that managed you?
Whitey knew how to handle a pitching staff. That's the big deal. If you can't handle a pitching staff, you ain't going to go anywhere. You can forget it. So, Whitey was very good at that.
Yeah, he had some good staffs both in Kansas City and St. Louis for sure.
Well, yeah, and the funny thing is that they were no-name staffs. When we won in 76 and 77, and that sparked, Ewing Kaufman's, rise to the Royals right there. You had Cedric Tallis come in. That's the name of the past right there. Yeah. Cedric Tallis was with the Angels. He came over. He pulled that whole thing together. Then he and Kaufman, got into it, and he got fired and let go. He went to the Yankees, and then Joe Burke came in. And he gets credit for it, but actually that's Cedric Tallis's baby, if you think about it. So beside the point, Cedric did a great job, and Whitey, did his thing, and the Royals, we'd have 38, 40,000 a night because we were winning, and and then when he went over to St. Louis, I knew that he was, because I hunted and fished with him too in Kansas City and St. Louis. And, the players were sitting there saying, who do you think we're going to get? Because they had fired, Boyer, and Kenny was a great guy. Couldn't manage a team though. great guy. Didn't know a damn thing about managing pitchers. But that's the way it is. And so anyway, Whitey comes in. I knew he and Bush were going to get along. And, we were out in the outfield, and all these guys, these players were sitting there saying, well, I wonder who we're going to get. They were throwing out names. And I said, you're going to get Whitey Herzog in here in about a day or two. That's going to be, and they said, yeah, that's a good thought. And I said, and Whitey had told me that he and Ewing had been having issues the year before, because I still hunted with him, even though I was with the Cardinals. And so that was the deal. I knew that Whitey was going to be a good fit because he and Gussie Bush were going to drink beer together and bullshit. So they're pretty simple.
It's funny. I was going to ask you what caused Whitey's demise in Kansas City, but I guess you kind of touched on it there. If you're not getting along with the owner, you're going to have some problems.
Well, Whitey had his thoughts about trades, and I guess that he and Mrs. Kaufman and the ladies come into it. I guess they didn't see eye to eye, and and she's Canadian anyway, so she doesn't count. But I guess she did. So anyway, there you go.
I get it's funny as you were talking about Cedric Tallis and Joe Burke, as much as that those were really Cedric Tallis's teams that were winning the divisions. The Royals that won in '80 at least won the American League Championship.
Right.
So in some ways, Whitey's team as well, I would think.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Whitey had carried it through, and Cedric went over to get back on Cedric a little bit. Cedric went to the Yankees, but Kaufman and Ewing Kaufman, he was a great owner, by the way. Kaufman and Cedric got into it, and that's probably one of the reasons why Cedric Tallis is not in the Royals Hall of Fame. That's sad.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Oh my gosh, what a great man. And he actually formulated that. I don't know if Kaufman put it in his will, do not make Cedric Tallis get into the Royals Hall of Fame. But anyway, beside the point. He's a true baseball man, a true gentleman too.
Yeah, and baseball grudges get held for a long time sometimes. So
crazy. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Keith.
How was it? Those 2 years that they back to back, you guys won the AL West, and you guys end up having a great rivalry with the Yankees, obviously, in the late '70s there.
Right. Yeah.
What are your memories of some of that? I know one of them's not so great, but what are your other memories of those?
Well, we had some players, and I've been on some winning teams with the Cardinals too as well. But the one thing is that there's a lot of chemistry, a lot of good chemistry. And I had a question the other day. People asked me, they say, well, how do they? What did you guys think about this? Or what did you guys think about that? Or did you know you were going to go to the World Series and things of that nature? No, we just played baseball, and we knew we were good enough to go out there and do our jobs. We didn't think about going to the World Series. You don't think about going to the playoffs. You just play somebody, and we're going to be the living shit out of you.
Right.
We're just going to get the job done. And then, we won. Oh, so you won 102 ball games in 77. Oh, wow, that's cool. Which was probably one of the best, if not the best, Royals team. I have not said that. Other people have said that. So,
they're both very good teams. I mean, you're only, an inning away from the World Series twice. So,
right.
If the cookie crumbles a little bit differently, I don't look at the Yankees of that era the same way. So let's talk a little bit, because I know you said you didn't mind going this way. We'll talk, because I don't think we can get away with a conversation without talking about the Chambliss home run a little bit.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of chaos in that inning to begin with before the home run ever happened.
Right.
But walk us through that a little bit.
Well, Al Cowan gets called out by who is it, Deckinger? I think, and at second, and he was safe by a long shot. Whitey did not want to argue that because that was not the right time to, and you're not going to win the argument anyway. So, let the game play. Let the game can have the rhythm. There's a rhythm to a ball game.
Right.
Each ball game has rhythm. Let it have that rhythm. Okay, it would be useless for Whitey to come out there, and we knew that. So he said, "Let's go, get him." And so we went out there. I went out there. It was super cold. There was a big cloud going over the stadium that night, just like in a movie. And it was moving fast. The wind was fast up there, but it was very cold. And I went out to warm up, and Buck Martinez, my catcher, and you had Mayberry over at first, and then you had George over at third, and Patek, and Cookie, and then you had Amos was hurt at the time. Jim Wilford was playing left. Al Cowan was playing center, and Hal McRae was then playing left. So I was warming up. I threw about 4 or 5 pitches, and I'm looking at all the umpires. I'm noticing there's some hoopla behind me going on. And then about the 5th pitch, when I turn around, I look out there, and I see my outfielders' numbers. Their backs are to me, and they're pulled in off of the fence a little bit. So, they're throwing batteries and some bottles, and Al Cowan even said, "Yeah, I even had a rubber thrown at me when it sailed out there." So, but I didn't.
Pack it, I hope.
I didn't
pack it, I hope.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So anyway, I stopped throwing, and I'm just sitting there, with my arms crossed a little bit, or my hands in my pocket because it was cold, and I just sit there and I look a little bit, and then I motion Buck out and I say, "Hey, you think we should get the hell off the field?" And he said, "Nah." He said, "They're getting it. They're getting it." He said, "You want to throw?" He didn't say anything about throwing because, you could keep throwing and throwing and throwing, and so what? So anyway, he says, "Yeah, they're getting it cleaned up right now. They're about a minute out or so, a minute and a half, So I go back to warming up, and they progress with the inning, and the inning starts, and Chambliss comes up. He sets under the box, Buck throws down a fastball sign. Actually, the ball he hit when I threw it, that was out of the strike zone, and he actually topped it. But the wind, carried that ball onto that short right field Yankee porch out there. It went out about 1.5 feet.
Yeah, only.
Yeah, and I'd only given up 1 home run the whole year, so that was a thing too. Howard Cosell was calling. There's a lot of guys calling the games. Howard Cosell, one of his statements I had heard was, "Yeah, Mark, that's Mark Littell, a big, strong country boy out there. Hadn't given up but 1 home run all year." So that's a kiss of death.
Thanks, Howard.
There you go. That's what it was. They hit the ball. I look up and I'm going, "That's not going to go out, is it?" All of a sudden he goes out and goes, "Shit." So I put my head down, and as I turn around slowly, I start to walk off the mound. Before I get off the mound, people are on the mound. And nobody touched me. I make it to the dugout. Nobody's there. I think Freddie might have been there for a second. And then I look toward the runway, and then somebody grabs me. I guess it's from the Yankees, and then I go up the runway, and you see both sides of the runway are lined with New York's finest. They got the brass buttons.
Yeah.
They got their billy clubs out, and I'm just kind of looking down and looking forward, looking down, looking forward, and I make it into the locker room. And then they go plow into the fans that are out on the field, and then they bring the horses out and really do damage. So that stadium and you might know this better than I do, but I had heard they didn't know if they were going to have a game because it did have so much damage.
Oh yeah,
Field.
tore up home plate.
What did you say? Yeah, home
Tore up
plate.
home plate. Yeah.
Maybe the pitching rubber. I doubt that. That's hard to get out. But all the bases, obviously, grass was gone because they wanted to put it in their little yard. That's Yankee grass, and the police got some Yankee ass, I'm sure. So
I'm sure.
so there you go.
Well, I'm sure, in the moment, you're a young guy. That has to be a devastating moment as it's happening. Over the years, though, how do you view that moment as you've gone on in your life and started to reflect and write books and whatnot? How do you look back at that moment now?
Well, I was 23 at the time, and it's pretty interesting just to sit out there and view. I ended up getting pitcher of the year for the Royals that year, not because of somebody was going to cry over me, because I actually didn't have a good year. And, but you look at that as a learning experience through life in a sense, because it's actually hard to walk through life, when to me, and other people said, "Oh man, I'd love to be Mark Littell," and did that and did that. I don't know if they were trying to cheer me up or anything like that, but I really haven't felt good about it, tell you the truth. And because, I always felt, I want to be on top, especially when you're having a good year, you want to be on top.
Sure.
And, to have it end like that, and then you go back into Kansas City, which is in the Midwest, and, they're, for the most part, pretty nice people. I mean, I grew up in Missouri myself. I played for both Missouri teams. And, to have somebody, badmouth you right in front of your face, and you see a waitress get fired, and you see this other guy get fired because they're badmouthing you. The owner comes up, "I'm so sorry, Mr. Littell. I'm 23, 24 still, and they're calling me Mr. Littell." I said, "Shit, I'm Mark," and I'm a pretty simple guy. I like to make people happy. That's the same thing about sport. We're out there to do our job, and if you do your job well, you're going to make people smile. And you're not going to always do your job. So you're an ambassador to yourself. You're an ambassador to your ball club. You're an ambassador to this country. When I go abroad and coach, whether it be in Australia or Cuba or Panama, wherever, you're still an ambassador. You're not there to tear up the country. You're tearing up the country in Cuba, throw your ass in jail.
Right.
You don't want to go to jail there.
We won't see you again.
No. And I did baseball there. So 3 different times in a 15-month period, actually.
Well, yeah, you had quite a career actually after you retired. And I know you had to retire, I believe in 82, you got injured and decided it was time to move on. Hopefully mostly your own decision.
Right.
But after that, you had quite a career coaching, throughout. I mean, you coached in the San Diego, the Milwaukee organizations, Kansas City, LA, you coach in Australia. You mentioned a couple other places that I wasn't aware of yet.
Right. Next book.
What are your memories of coaching? You got as high as AAA, I believe, pitching coach in AAA.
I was actually a coordinator, with the Royals. That didn't work out so well. That was actually screwed up at the time. They've got new ownership right now. And, I know they're not doing well right now, but I think they're going, with this new ownership, they're going to do just fine. They'll bring it back into swing like a Kaufman eras, because these people actually do like the game of baseball.
Oh,
this new outfit. So
good.
It's a good deal.
It's funny you talk about the Royals today, and we talked a little bit. We touched on the game, the way it's played today, as opposed to the way it used to be played. One of my favorite teams in more recent times to watch. I'm still a Yankee fan, and they are difficult to watch sometimes because the games take 4 hours to play. But the Kansas City team that won the World Series was a fun team to watch because they didn't stand there waiting to hit 3-run home runs. They put the ball in play. They moved base runners, and it felt a little like, baseballs from the 70s that I remember.
Yeah.
They're a great team.
Yeah.
Um,
No doubt about that.
yeah. I mean, did you have aspirations of coaching or more in the majors?
Oh yeah, you always do. But I was with Bochy one year, and Bochy was a fan of mine, and he got me a couple of interviews. He got me an interview with actually got me a couple of interviews, San Diego and the Giants. But he said, I want to show you off. But there's only 30 baseball teams out there, major league teams. So that's slim pickings right there. So if you're going to go out there, we call it a sponsor. You have to have a sponsor.
Yeah.
So once you get in the loop, you're kind of okay. Well, I never really totally got in the loop. And so it never really worked out. I'm also my own worst enemy at times because I'm pointed, I'm opinionated, and some people don't like that.
I have noticed that in our conversations.
Well, if people in the round table are sitting there with 26 coaches in a room in spring training, and they say, now we want you to tell us the truth about what you really think. Hell yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm a redneck. I'm a country boy, and that's just the way I'm going to tell you. I'm going to be honest. And a lot of times people don't like honesty.
Yeah, they want honesty until you actually give them honesty, right?
I guess, so I only knew one way, tell it straight up. I'm a little too forward. Are we here to just get the job done, or are we just here to just sit there and bullshit?
Yeah.
So
you mentioned, I love some of your how many nicknames do you have? I feel like you're Apollo Creed a little bit. You have so many nicknames.
I don't know. They call me everything. Fans have called me everything too. It depends on which day. If I'm good today, that's fine. If I'm bad today, it's another story. If I'm in a different ballpark, that's another story.
Yeah.
You have so many names when you're a ball player. You got Ramrod because I called my players Ramrod, and a lot of them didn't have their name on their back, and eventually I would get around to knowing their name, so I just called them Ramrod, and they actually liked that, and that's why I'm calling this third book "What's Up, Ramrod?" with a question mark. And they're you're doing PFP, pitchers fielding practice, and you're out there in spring training, and you're switching every 25 minutes or so. You got a new group, and I don't know everybody, and I might have a rookie in a group with a mix of double A or whatever. And I had these pitchers in this group, a lot of those guys maybe, but there's a couple of rookies, maybe not. So if they do the drill right, I mean, I'm going to say, hey, nice job. Or I might say, hey, nice job, Ramrod. Nice job, Ramrod. Next, So they go to the end of the line, and these four guys who knew me are at the end of the line. They had me maybe the year before, and the rookie comes up. He said, hey, did you hear what he called me? And they already knew. And you hear what he said? And he said, nice job, Ramrod. Now they put their gloves up to their mouth, so they're snickering, and so the big guy, the big gun of the group comes up and says, do you know why he calls you Ramrod? And he says, no, he didn't know your effing name. So, anyway.
Oh, you got to be shitting me. Oh, yeah. Sorry. That's one thing I wanted to bring up. I love one of my favorite parts of the book.
Are you shitting me? Is another baseball thing I put in over 20 times in the first book of,
Yeah, it felt like 100 times. It was awesome though, because you describe it every time as a common baseball term.
Common baseball term.
I love the way you did that. Yeah. It made me snicker every time it came up, so it was awesome. Yeah. Is country what most people call you that know you?
Most, yeah, yeah, pretty much country.
It must be kind of cool playing your entire professional career. You grew up in Missouri and Missouri. Oh, yeah. How should you say that? Missouri. Yeah, I want to say it right. You grew up in Missouri. It must have been fun to play your entire big league career in Missouri.
Well, I'm the only person born in the state that has played for both teams and not played outside the state. I'm the only one.
That's kind of another Forrest Gump statistic there.
That is a Forrest Gump. That's true. It is. Joe Gordon gave me my nickname, Country, and I think that's in the first book.
It is. Yeah.
And Joe Gordon was a Hall of Famer. He was also the Royals manager at one time. And Joe was a man of many. Oh, he did a lot of different. He flew planes. He could do anything, you know. But Joe came in and saw this rookie crew in Billings. He and Spider Jorgensen were there, I remember. And there's two big names. And so I'm sitting out there. I never threw batting practice behind an L screen before in my life. And I never actually threw batting practice because, you know, I grew up on a little place and we didn't throw batting practice in Legion ball, and I didn't throw batting practice in high school. And I just pitched in ball games. So now I'm in a Pioneer League, which is a lot of college guys. There's only 4 guys on the team that are high school, and the rest are college, and they're giving us a bunch of shit all the time. So anyway, I'm out there, and Gary Blaylock, the guy who signed me, took me there. You know, he lived 10 miles from me, and he would be the Royals pitching coach in '85. Actually, yeah, he was the Royals pitching coach. So Gary took me up there, and he was kind of putting his arm around me. I'm thinking. So I'm 18, and everybody else is 21 to 23, you might say. But the high school guys are sitting there. We're all 18. So I go out there and throw batting practice my first time. I throw on the second day toward the end because they're thinking, okay, you what? I never said I hadn't never thrown batting practice. Plus, I'm throwing behind this L screen. Well, I'm just sitting out there just letting it rip. And then, you know, I mean, I didn't know what batting. Here, hit this. Here, try to hit this shit, you know. So Blaylock's back there, and he comes around the side of the screen after about the 5th or 6th pitch. He says, "Damn it, country." He didn't say country. He said, "Damn it, Mark." He said, you know, back it down. This is batting practice. And I said, okay, well, I didn't know it was supposed to be back down. There's a guy over there named Dave Landers who went to UCLA. And, you know, he's taking throws from across the diamond, and there's a screen in front of him, you know, so he won't get whacked, you know. And that's how I'm thinking anyway. And this screen's in front of the first base right there. And I've got the L screen. And so the guy gets out of the batter's box. He didn't want to hit much off me. You know, he took some swings and he went down to first. And so when Dave was over there taking throws, I'm sitting there thinking, this guy's on first. I said, well, that son of a bitch gets off too far. I'm going to pick his ass off in batting practice.
In batting practice.
Yeah. So I come, you know, Blaylock yelled at me, come to a set position. So I came to a set, and then I'm looking over my shoulder, and I said, damn, he's got a hell of a lead. So Spider hits a ball out to the shortstop. The ball comes across the diamond. I turn and throw over there to Landers, you know, to pick the guy off. He has one ball hit the glove. The other one, the ball goes by his head. So everybody hits the ground on the whole field. And then, you know, Spider hits it. Joe Gordon hits it. You know, Dave Landers is shitting his pants. He's over. He just walks. He flips his gloves. He walks to the dugout, you know, and everybody's on the ground just laughing their asses off. And Gary comes out and says, GD. He says, God damn it. He said, throw the son of a bitch. Quit it. Just throw the ball over the plate. Okay. So anyway, those, you know, Spider's down still, and so is Joe Gordon. They're still laughing. They're coming up off their knees, still laughing. The next day, I come onto the field. You know, I always try to come on early. And so there's half the team out there at the time. He says, where is that country boy? I kind of like that guy. Where is he? So that's where I got the name Country.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, those are the stories that are great in the book. I mean, you know, a lot of guys write books, and it's right. Repeating stories we've heard over and over again through the years, and they're well reported. And
sure.
And this gets into some of the nitty gritty that people don't know about in the minor leagues and making their way to the majors even before. And I know your second book covers, you know, your time before professional ball entirely. I think you explained to me. So I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, that's all farm stories, actually, because I blew up a truck with dynamite when I was 15. I did a lot of other stuff. I blew up a pump house because we had a rat killings on Sunday after church. And it's formulation of my character, you might say.
Well, it's a good thing. We talked a little bit about how I grew up in a very small county here in upstate New York. People think of New York and they think of New York City. Well, upstate rural New York is far different than New York City, and it's probably more like Missouri, where you grew up, than it is anything else downstate here in New York.
Yeah.
And you had to make your own fun like that. Nobody got hurt. It's all good. Today we go to jail or do it at home.
Yeah, I had a mom, so she was always sewing us up out there on the farm. I mean, you see some of the stories, and I did get hurt, actually. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I would really recommend, and my guest today is Mark Littell, retired Major League pitcher and the author of On the Eighth Day God Made Baseball, and also Country Boy.
Yep.
That's the second book. I'm going to be reading it. I really recommend everybody get out there and buy it. They're fun reads. And when the new book is out, What's Up, Ramrod, we'll certainly push that for Mark. One thing I have to touch on for sure before we go, and I do have one other topic I missed earlier, but I want to talk a little about the Nutty Buddy and how did this come into play. And there's a hilarious video. I'm going to put the video up after the show. I promised Mark last night that I would put it up. Actually, I found two, because there's the original one, which I think is actually much better than the one in this. That might have been on ESPN Sports Science. I'm not sure. The second one I found.
There's a whole bunch of them.
It's just, I'm going to share a couple of them. You guys have got to see this, but tell us a little bit how the Nutty Buddy came into existence, the idea.
When I was coaching with the Royals, I was actually the coordinator at the time. And I was out with a group in the instructional league of pitchers. Actually, it was the whole group. And I was out there toward the end of the day and then was getting ready to run them. I was just killing time and, trying to get to know the pitchers a little bit. And so I just said off the top of my head, I said, how many guys wear a cup? So half of them raised their hand. And I said, that's what I figured. So I start, having some fun with them. And one of the guys in the background said, well, hey, Country, why don't you just go and invent one? And I said, well, hell, I think I will. So I went into the training room and I got a couple golf balls and I found some of that plastic that they put into the hydroculator that bends and you cut it up. And so I formulated a cup, what I thought one should look like. And I took it out there the next day and I held it up and I said, here's your cup. What do you think of that? And he said, man, that's pretty good. You probably should patent that thing. And I said, nah. Anyway, after instruction league was over, I said, well, maybe I'll just check into it. So I sent it, you find the lawyer, and the lawyer, he sends it off to the patent office, and it comes back free and clear. And so I asked the lawyer, I said, well, what's that mean? He says, that means you spend more money. So anyway, I had a cup that was anatomically correct. And, it won 5 awards. I'm an idiot, by the way, but I won 5 awards, 1 international award, actually. And these things are sold international, all over the world, but it's just not a baseball cup because, hockey, lacrosse, bull riding, policemen wear my cup. Grandpas wear my cup because little kids kick them in the nuts, stuff like that. Anybody that's got a pair, So Nutty Buddy, it's got 5 sizes. It's got hammer, boss, hog, trophy, and of course Mongo.
Of course.
And then it's got a little chart. It's got a chart on there. It tells you how to, which size you're going to wear. And so I haven't got 3. I've got 5. And I've won a lot of awards, and it's very comfortable. Umpires love my cups. Referees in hockey, lacrosse, they all love my cups because, they take shots and they don't feel them. And they're also, well, it's comfortable. So that's why I guess I won the awards.
In watching the video, and I probably got this comment from watching the video. everybody, every owner or inventor or CEO or whatever, certainly claims to stand behind their product. And Mark Littell certainly literally stood behind his product. When you guys see this video, it's remarkable that you had to know it would work. I mean, it was kind of like, how does Evel Knievel learn how to jump over, 25 buses without killing himself? And I'm thinking, how do you do it the first time?
It up.
The first time you did this, you had to have some question in your head about what was going to happen.
Well, I cited it in pretty well. The whole claim to fame here on what you're talking about is I take a shot at 90 miles an hour right in the nads. And I do stand behind my product. And the very first time I ever did it was with the blonde little girl.
Yeah.
And the Japanese trainer Masako Inagi, and his laugh is just fun. And that's my favorite video of the whole bunch. Lopez, Fox Sports Science, Fox and Friends Morning Show, Times Square. I took a million hits years ago, and it just blew up right there. It's pretty interesting. But it's kind of like this. I've got a great product, I really do, and it's there for protection and comfort. So that's the way I came about.
Well, if any of you are watching this or do watch this and are still playing sports, I recommend you look into the Nutty Buddy, because when I watched this, I would have bet the thing was made of Kevlar. Because
we've got one in Kevlar.
Oh, do you?
Dude.
The police department might be buying that one up.
Further up the ladder.
Further up the ladder. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, that makes sense too.
Yeah. But the Nutty Buddy I got from Australia, the name, because the word when I went over to Australia, the very first day I was on the field, one of the guys came up to me and said, "Hey, mate, how you doing?" I said, "No, well, I'm half dead from the flight because I was in Perth, Australia," and so I said, "Oh, I'm fine." And he said, "Hey, you got your nutty on?" I said, "Huh?" and I went, "Huh?" And he said, "You're nutty." And I said, "Oh, you mean?" I said, "You mean my cup?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, and I said, and they call it a box as well. And I said, yeah, I got it. No, I haven't got it on. I'm not wearing one right now. I will when I get really out on the field. And I said, "What'd you call that again?" He said, "Nutty." So when I went back in the States, I said to my copyright guy, I said, "Can I use Nutty Buddy?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "It's a candy bar, but Nutty Buddy and a protective cup are totally different."
For sure.
They're opposites,
for sure. Before I wrap things up with a couple last comments from you about your new book, I wanted to go circle back for a second, because I wanted to bring this up earlier and I should have. I know one of your former St. Louis teammates, one of your first teammates when you went over there, with Lou Brock, and sadly Lou passed away this week. And I just wanted to ask you to reflect on Lou, because Lou is somebody I grew up watching and enjoyed watching through the years, and I wanted to kind of get your feedback on Lou a little bit.
Lou is just great. I came into the locker room and, you see Lou for the first time. You see him because he has a great big smile always. He has a smile. He has a $1 million smile. He never played, I'm sure he played hurt, but he never complained. He never complained. He was quiet and very, very quiet, actually. And but he carried himself as a leader because you knew he did things in a different way, in a good way. So when he played baseball, he played it hard, and he went into the bases sliding hard, and he put the bat on the ball, and he played the game the right way.
Yeah,
it's just the way he was.
From the outside looking in, he looked like you said, he played the game the right way, and he was a good man from the outside looking in. You had met Lou Brock before you were his teammate, hadn't you?
I met Lou when I was 11 years old. I had a broken foot. I went to the old ballpark. There's 3 of them. The first ballpark was Old Sportsman's Ballpark. And I was in 64 when I was there. At age 11, I had a broken foot. from a baseball game, actually. And then my dad and mom and my brother and my dad walks over to the guy at the elevator. It's the clang clang elevator. He's got the white shirt, the blue pants with the stripe on. He's got the hat on, the way it was. And he said, sir, my son's got a broken foot. Can you get us up? Because we have seats way up, nosebleed section. And so anyway, he said, no problem. So we get on, and this man walks on, and about halfway up, because in Wrigley Field and in the Old Sportsman, the locker room is on the second floor, and so this man gets on, and I'm not paying attention too much, but I didn't even know that their locker room was on the second floor. My dad says, "You're Lou Brock, aren't you?" About halfway up to the floor. And he says, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Well, we're really glad to have you over here and wish you the best of luck." And I'm just sitting there looking, because I'm 11, my brother's 10. And so we go up on the nosebleed section. And, I thought we had the best seats in the house because we could see all of St. Louis and at the time. And so my mom says, "Look, boys, there's that young man you guys saw in the elevator. That's Lou Brock. He just got 2 hits today," because she always kept a scorebook. She always kept the scorebook. Anyway, 14 years later, I'm traded over to St. Louis, and Lou's there. Here's the big story that you want, is that we're playing the Cubs on his 3,000th hit night. So he comes up to the plate, he leads off, he gets 2,999. And then in the 4th inning, he gets 3,000. So they shut the game down for the 8 to 10 minutes for all the hoopla. I come in, I pitch the 8th and the 9th, and we're in a tie ball game. We score a run, I get the win. So that's just ironic right there. The other factor was Kenny Reitz got his 1,000th hit that night. Tommy Herr had his first start that night. And, Southeast Missouri boy Mark Littell picked up the win on Lou's 3,000th hit night. I thought that was amazing.
I think it's amazing, and it's part of what's amazing about baseball is all these things that can converge at the same time. And any given night, you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
That's one of the things. Even still today, I still feel that way about baseball, even though the game's changed a bit. Mark, I've enjoyed having you here. I know there's so much more we could talk about. I mean, the 2 books are certainly full of fodder. I'm sure your 3rd one will be as well. Is there anything that you'd like to add before we end today?
No, it was a great interview because we covered a lot of ground, and it was there was some good parts that you always like to come back to, and I do have a lot of subject matter to talk about, and it's all in a good way, and it's all fun. And, baseball is a great game. That's why it's a great game. There's so much little stupid things that go on, idiosyncrasies in the locker room, on the bench, on the field, on an airplane, in a restaurant, wherever, in another city. But that's what makes this world click. And I've enjoyed the interview. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I appreciate you being on, and I'm going to wrap up the show. But if you want to stick around for a minute after I take you out of the room, I'd love to chat with you real quick and wrap up our conversation. Yeah. If you can, I understand, but I'd love to chat with you for a second afterwards. I really appreciate having you on. Again, my guests have been Mark Littell. Check out the books on the 8th Day God Made Baseball, Country Boy, and his new book when it gets out, What's Up, Ramrod. And certainly if you have a need, depending on your occupation or vocation, maybe you want to look into the Nutty Buddy as well if you're in need of such a product. I may need to get one for myself just to protect myself when my wife is mad.
You can actually go to Mark Littell. If you can spell Littell, marklittell.com, and that'll pull some things up for you right there. So
yeah, we'll put some stuff up. I'm going to put a post up with the videos and whatnot. So I appreciate you being with me today, Mark. I hope you have a great day, and we'll chat with you in a second.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Well, that was my guest, Mark Littell. As I said, great job. Mark's a a good character, one of the great characters in baseball. It's why I love that year when I grew up. And I've had some of these people on. I'm going to have more people on from that time. I hope you're enjoying these stories because I am. Certainly share the videos, follow the page, and we'll continue to grow this. Keep in mind, I'll be on Sunday at 9 o'clock, 9 a.m. We'll talk a little bit about the previous day's college football scoreboard, since we've got a few more games now this weekend, and the NFL is going to be in full swing. Big win by the Chiefs last night. So please, if you guys can join me, I'd appreciate that, and certainly take a second out today to give some thought to those from 9/11 2001 that lost their lives, and let's see if we can get that feeling of togetherness back. And we'll have some fun here as we go forward. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you as always tuning in.